the Doctor's greatest recurring enemies, and this is the only time the Fourth Doctor faces them. Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron, and these are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. As a matter of fact, this is the first time the Doctor has encountered the Cybermen since 1968's The Invasion. That means that the third Doctor did not encounter them at all, except for one quick flash of them in Carnival of Monsters, and then another quick flashback somewhere else. But in terms of actual Cybermen stories, never happened in the third Doctor era. And of course the Cybermen were the opponents of the Doctor in his first regeneration story, where he went from the first to the second Doctor. That makes this here, Revenge of the Cybermen, the very first Cybermen story to not feature the second Doctor in any way. And as a matter of fact, at the time this story aired, this was the only Cybermen story in existence. All of the ones from the second Doctor era and the first Doctor story had been wiped from the BBC archives, and so a couple of stray episodes here and there existed, but no complete stories were there in the 1970s. It wasn't until the 1990s when Cybermen's story began to be found and restored in the BBC archives. But even with all of that and the uniqueness of this story, Revenge of the Cybermen, I was surprised to find, is not particularly beloved by a lot of Doctor Who fans, and yet it's one that I truly adore, holds a real meaning for me, and it took me a long time to figure out why that is. And I finally realized the other day, it's because, and I keep going back to these, it was one of the original Pinnacle novelizations that I read as a 10-year-old boy. This story was my first encounter with the Cybermen, and it was in book form. I keep going back to mentioning those Pinnacle books. It's hard to overstate just how formative those 10 books were in my childhood. Long before I ever saw Doctor Who on the screen, these books formed my imagination, my vision of what Doctor Who was. And out of those 10 books, most of them were kind of randomly scattered around, but 3 of them were the specific sequence of Genesis of the Daleks, Revenge of the Cybermen, Terror of the Zygons. And I ate those books up. And so Revenge of the Cybermen for me is a significant story. It's not just the first story where I encountered the Cybermen, but it's one of the triumvirate of stories that cemented my love of the TARDIS crew of the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith and Harry Sullivan. In my mind, those 3 were together forever, when in fact, really, those 3 were together for 5 stories. Getting back to the story itself, this one is significant not just for being the first appearance of the Cybermen in 7 years, but also the first appearance of the Cybermen in a color story, and the first time that the Cyber Leader was denoted by having a black helmet instead of the silver helmets of all of the other Cybermen characters. Now, there's one other deeply personal reason why I love this story. Revenge of the Cybermen has the first appearance of the seal of Rassilon. Of course, in this story, it has nothing to do with Rassilon at all. It's simply a geometric piece of artwork that was used to decorate the Vogan corridors and medallions on the character costumes. It was later reappropriated to become the Seal of Rassilon on Gallifrey. And that particular symbol, a couple of years ago when I was doing my first run through these stories, I took that symbol and combined it with my love of octopuses and hired a tattoo design artist to come up with this design. This was going to be the tattoo I would get when I actually finished my complete run through of all of Doctor Who. It was going to go right here. And I love this design so much. It's just the perfect, to me, geeky way to combine my love of Doctor Who, my love of octopuses, and do it in a way that's not cheap or commercial, but actually a genuinely attractive piece of art, to the point where this is actually the symbol that's on my computer. It's also, I have a t-shirt made up of this design. I love this design so much. I just haven't quite worked up the guts to walk into a tattoo shop and have them permanently ink it on my arm. And now, with a global pandemic going on, I don't know that that'll happen anytime soon. But maybe, if the after times ever come and the world wakes up, maybe I will get that tattoo. We'll see. And that'll wrap it up today. I will see you again tomorrow for the second half of Revenge of the Cybermen.